The luxury penthouse on the 81st floor of Skyline Towers felt completely detached from the world below. Outside, a monstrous tropical storm was tearing through the city, slapping heavy sheets of rain against the massive glass panes. Inside, the atmosphere was perfectly still, warm and scented with expensive sandalwood. Suddenly, a sharp, crashing sound shattered the silence of the marble foyer. Pristine, gold-rimmed ceramic bowl containing premium bird's nest soup hit the white stone floor, splattering its steaming, sticky contents everywhere. The hot liquid drenched the mud-stained boots and the cheap, neon-green nylon jacket of a young delivery driver. Shark Hoang stood over him, his face twisted in an ugly, venomous mask of pure arrogance. The multi-millionaire's diamond ring flashed under the golden chandelier as he pointed his finger aggressively at the driver's face. 2 minutes late. You miserable, brainless rat. Do you have any idea whose time you are wasting right now? Do you know how much a single second of my life costs? The driver, whose name tag read Min, stood frozen at the threshold of the doorway, his body shivering from the freezing rain outside. Water was aggressively dripping from his soaked uniform, forming a dark, dirty puddle on the flawless marble. He took a slow, heavy breath, trying to steady his trembling hands as the hot soups began to burn through his thin shirt. Sir, I am truly sorry for the delay. The storm completely flooded the main avenue below my motorcycle's rear tire. Shark Hoang cut him off with a loud, mocking laugh that echoed coldly through the high-ceiling room. Your motorcycle? Pathetic, worthless excuses. Look at my floor, you petty peasant. Look at the disgusting filth you just dragged into my home. You are nothing but a bottom-feeding cockroach, parasite, who cannot even perform the simplest manual task on time. People like you are born to be stepped on by people like me. You work a brainless, low-tier job because your entire bloodline is genetically inferior and lazy. You will stay at the very bottom of the dirt forever, serving your betters. Now, get out of my sight before I have my security guards throw you off this balcony. Min did not shout back, nor did he beg for mercy. He simply stood there, his deep dark eyes fixing on Shark Hoang with a chilling, bothered calmness. The silence that followed was heavy, punctuated only by the rhythmic dripping of rainwater onto the marble floor. They say that a person's true character is never revealed by how they treat their equals. It is revealed by how they treat those they perceive to be completely powerless beneath them. Wealth can buy a fortress in the clouds. It cannot purchase a single drop of human decency. Shark Hoang believed he was the ultimate apex predator of the city's financial district. He truly believed his millions gave him the absolute right to crush the dignity of a tired, wet delivery driver. But what he did not know, what his arrogant mind could not possibly comprehend, was that this storm was not an accident, and the man standing before him, covered in cheap soup, was about to completely, systematically dismantle his entire empire. To truly understand how this trap was sprung, we must rewind the clock exactly 1 hour before the first drop of rain hit the pavement. Min was a man who lived two completely different lives. To the workers at the grand office tower of Alpha Capital, he was Thomas Min Nguyen, the reclusive, brilliant global chairman and sole heir to a multi-billion-dollar venture capital fund. He was a man whose single signature could save or destroy entire industries overnight. But for the past 3 weeks, Min had chosen to slip into a faded green uniform and ride a sputtering motorcycle. It was a deep, psychological experiment of his own design. Lilia, he wanted to see the city from the very bottom. Usa, he wanted to understand how the elite treated the invisible queued workers who kept society moving. Min operated under a strict, unyielding investment philosophy. Never invest a single dollar into a company whose leaders lack a basic human soul. Exactly 60 minutes ago, Min was sitting on his old bike near the Central Market, waiting for the sky to break. His phone suddenly buzzed violently inside its waterproof plastic sleeve on the handlebars. Bright red notification flashed on the screen with an ominous tone. EP premium order. Instant delivery guaranteed. Shark Hoang, Chief Executive of Horizon Ventures. Penalty for lateness. Immediate and permanent account termination. Min stared at the name through his fogged-up helmet visor, slow, knowing smile appearing on his lips. Hoang Nguyen, also known to the public as Shark Hoang, the very same man who had been frantically begging Alpha Capital for a $50 million emergency bailout for the last 6 months. Yet, the man who had sent dozens of polished, submissive emails praising Min's vision. Let us see what kind of man you really are when the corporate cameras are turned off. Hoang. Let us see how you speak to a man you think cannot do anything for you. Min started the engine. The old bike coughing up a cloud of dark smoke as he headed toward the premium restaurant to pick up the soup. The sky above had turned an ominous, bruised shade of purple-black. The wind began to howl through the concrete canyons of the metropolis, signaling the arrival of the worst storm of the decade. Within minutes, the streets became a paralyzed, loud, chaotic gridlock of flashing brake lights and screaming drivers. But Min kept moving forward, gripped by a quiet determination to see this experiment through to its brutal end. The heavy rain was no longer falling in drops. It had become a solid, gray wall of water that completely erased the city's skyline from view. On the flooded asphalt of the main avenue, cars were packed bumper to bumper, their red brake lights bleeding into the murky water that rose rapidly above the curbs. Engines groaned in vain. Furious drivers kept slamming their horns, creating a chaotic, deafening symphony of urban despair. Amidst this gridlock, Min was pushing his ancient motorcycle forward with strained, heavy steps, his boots sinking into the dirty, ankle deep current. The old 110cc engine had finally given up, letting out one last wet cough before dying completely after the rear tire hit a sharp, submerged piece of metal. The rubber was completely shredded, scraping aggressively against the wheel rim with a harsh, metallic screech every time the bike rolled forward. Min wiped the freezing rain from his eyes, his breath coming out in ragged, pale plumes of exhaustion. La Sagrada Familia. He pulled out his phone from the waterproof sleeve on the handlebars to check the application's delivery timer. 13 minutes remaining. If the countdown reached 0, Sagrada Familia, the automated premium system of the app, would instantly lock his account for a major protocol violation. To a regular delivery driver, a deactivated account meant losing their livelihood, Sedo. An immediate financial disaster that could leave a family starving. To Min, the red digits on the screen represented something entirely different. The ticking clock of a grand trap designed to catch a predator. He knew that Shark Hoang was a man who measured the entire universe in profit and loss. A billionaire, venture capitalist, who viewed human beings as numbers on a spreadsheet. Min parked the dead motorcycle against a concrete barrier on the side of the road, leaving it behind without a single look of regret. Every time he pulled the heavy, insulated, green delivery backpack off the rack, strapping it tight and secure across his broad shoulders. Inside that backpack sat the gold-plated ceramic bowl of hot bird's nest soup, carefully sealed and cushioned to preserve every degree of its premium warmth. Ming adjusted the straps, leaned his body forward against the roaring wind, and began to run. Leah. His heart hammered violently against his ribs as his legs pushed through the heavy resistance of the rising water, picking up white spray with every step. The wind howled like a wild animal between the high-rise glass buildings, Sagrada La Celia, trying to tear the heavy pack from his back and rip his plastic visor away. Sagrada Familia. Other delivery drivers had already pulled over under bridges and awnings, shivering and waiting for the storm to pass, watching him in utter confusion. They couldn't understand why this lone man was risking his life, sprinting through a dangerous tropical storm just to deliver a luxury meal to a wealthy stranger, Sagrada Familia. They didn't know that Min wasn't running for a paltry $5 delivery fee or a favorable rating on an application, Sagrada Familia. He was running to ensure that when the moment of judgment finally arrived, Shark Hoang would have absolutely no excuses left to hide behind. Min's thighs burned with pure agony, and his lungs felt like they were filled with crushed glass as he pushed himself past the limits of human endurance. He was running through the deep puddles, his eyes locked onto the distant, glowing crown of skyline towers, piercing through the dark storm clouds. Every stride he took was a calculated step closer to exposing the rotting core of a man who thought his wealth placed him entirely above the laws of morality. The rain beat down on his face like small pebbles. But Min's expression remained grimly set, his teeth clenched in absolute, implacable resolve. 5 minutes remaining. He could see the grand, illuminated glass canopy of the elite towers, Entrance just a block away, guarded by sterile, gold-rimmed security lights. Ming accelerated, his wet clothes clinging heavily to his frame. A phantom in neon green sprinting out of the darkness of the city's underbelly. He knew the stage was set. The actor was waiting in his penthouse. The final act of this corporate tragedy was about to begin. Ming arrived at the grand, sweeping entrance of Skyline Towers, his chest heaving as he fought for every breath of air. The magnificent glass canopy of the elite building shined like a beacon of pure wealth against the black, stormy sky. Inside the lobby, the atmosphere was sterile, quiet, and filled with the scent of expensive white tea and marble polish. Ming pushed through the heavy revolving glass doors, his boots squeaking loudly as water poured off his neon green jacket in thick streams. The wet fabric clung heavily to his frame, and a dark, dirty puddle began to spread aggressively across the pristine plush rug at the entrance. Immediately, two burly security guards in crisp, custom-tailored black suits stepped forward, their faces hardening into identical expressions of deep disgust. Guard 1 reached out, his heavy hand pressing hard against Min's soaked shoulder, shoving him roughly back toward the glass doors. "Hey, whoa, where do you think you're going? Garbage boy. Look at this disgusting mess you are making on the floor. Get the hell back outside into the rain where you belong." Min stood his ground. Sagrada Familia, his eyes remaining perfectly calm and focused as he wiped the cold rainwater from his face. He adjusted the heavy straps of the insulated green delivery backpack on his shoulders, keeping his voice polite but firm. "I have an urgent premium delivery for Penthouse 3. It's a luxury hot soup for Mr. Hoang, Nguyen." The application explicitly states it must be delivered directly to his door. "The timer is running out. Please allow me to pass to the VIP elevator." Guard 2 let out a loud, mocking laugh, crossing his arms over his chest as he looked Min up and down, directly to his door. "Are you completely insane, you little rat? Delivery rats and manual laborers do not use the VIP elevators of this tower. Look at your clothes. You look like a drowned sewer animal that just crawled out of a gutter. You will ruin the interior mirrors and the custom leather walls of our premium cabins. Take the service elevator in the dark alley, back where the trash bins are stored." Min slowly raised his arm, showing the red, flashing countdown timer on his phone screen to the guards. "The service elevator is currently marked as under maintenance on my system. If I take the service stairs to the 81st floor, delivery will be late. Mr. Hoang Nguyen specifically paid a premium fee for immediate, high-speed service. Are you two willing to take full personal and financial responsibility for delaying Shark Hoang's dinner?" The two guards instantly froze, exchanging nervous, hesitant glances as the mention of Shark Hoang's name hit them like a physical blow. They knew his legendary, explosive temper all too well. A single complaint from the billionaire could get them fired and blacklisted from the entire security industry by morning. Guard 1 cursed under his breath, stepping back and aggressively swiping his master keycard across the VIP scanner. "Fine, get in, you piece of trash." Do not touch a single wall. Do not breathe too hard inside the cabin. If Shark Hoang smells a single drop of your filthy rainwater in that elevator, your boss will hear about it before you even hit the lobby floor. Did not reply to the insult. He walked past them into the golden elevator, his wet boots leaving dark tracks on the floor as the heavy metal doors slid shut with a soft, expensive hum. The heavy gold-trimmed doors of Penthouse 3 glided open with a soft, mechanical hiss. Inside, the world was a pristine, sun-drenched sanctuary of absolute opulence, completely insulated from the chaotic tropical storm raging 81 floors below. Massive floor-to-ceiling glass windows offered a panoramic view of the dark, rain-swept metropolis. The interior floor was covered in flawless, ice-white Greek marble that reflected the warm, sterile glow of a massive crystal chandelier. Shark Hoang stood in the center of the grand entryway, his body wrapped in an immaculately tailored Italian silk robe with gold embroidery. His face was deeply flushed, his eyes wild with a mixture of corporate stress and pure, volatile arrogance. He was wearing an oversized diamond ring on his right hand, which flashed aggressively as he paced back and forth on the expensive stone. Sleek, Bluetooth earpiece was clipped to his ear, blinking with a steady, cold blue light as he shouted into the microphone. "Yes, Alex, I am holding the line right now. I do not care if the European markets are closing in 5 minutes. Ile, go back to the board and tell them that Horizon Ventures is securing the lifeline. The senior partners of La Familia, Alpha Capital, are actively reviewing our financial prospectus at this very moment. We are getting that $50 million cash injection. Do you hear me? Leana Celdera, our credit lines will be restored by tomorrow morning, so stop panicking like a coward. Emilia. Shark Hoang abruptly cut the call with a brutal swipe of his thumb, turning his gaze toward the doorway. His eyes instantly narrowed into two slits of pure, unadulterated disgust as they landed on Min. Min stood perfectly still at the threshold, a long figure in a faded, neon green delivery uniform that was satin with filthy rainwater. Dark, muddy water was aggressively dripping from the hem of Min's jacket, creating an expanding, ugly puddle on the spotless, white marble floor. The insulated, green delivery backpack was still strapped tightly to his broad shoulders, completely soaked. Shark Hoang took 3 slow, heavy steps forward, his expensive leather slippers clicking loudly against the stone. The vein on his neck bulged violently as he looked down at the dark puddle, his voice dropping into a venomous, low hiss. Minutes. 2 damn minutes late. You miserable, worthless piece of trash. Do you have any practical concept of whose time you are wasting right now? Do you know how many millions of dollars slide through my fingers while I am forced to wait for a bottom feeder? In kept his eyes fixed directly on the billionaire, his expression entirely devoid of fear, his breathing slow and measured. "Well, sir, I apologize for the delay. at the Sagrada Familia. But the central avenue is completely submerged under 3 feet of water. My motorcycle suffered a catastrophic tire blowout due to hidden debris in the floodwaters. I left the vehicle behind and ran the last 6 blocks on foot through the gale force winds to ensure your meal arrived. Shark Hoang let out a loud, mocking laugh that cut through the silent, luxurious apartment like a jagged blade. He stepped directly into Min's personal space, pointing his manicured finger less than an inch from the driver's nose. Your motorcycle, your pathetic, lower-class excuses. I do not pay a premium service fee to hear about your broken toys or your miserable little life story. Look at my floor, you disgusting peasant. Look at the literal sewer water you just dragged into my sanctuary. You work a brainless, manual job because you lack the genetic intelligence to do anything else. Your entire bloodline is clearly defined by laziness and poverty, born to crawl in the dirt and serve your superiors. Without a single word of warning, Shark Hoang reached out and violently grabbed the gold-plated ceramic bowl from the top compartment of the insulated pack. The bird's nest soup was still steaming, releasing a rich, premium aroma into the sterile room. With a fluid, cruel motion born of absolute superiority, Shark Hoang turned the bowl upside down and poured the hot, sticky liquid directly onto Min's chest. The boiling soup splattered across the cheap green nylon fabric, soaking through the thin layers and immediately burning into Min's skin. The heavy gold-plated ceramic bowl was then carelessly dropped, shattering into a dozen jagged pieces against Min's worn leather boots. Shark Hoang pulled a thick stack of high-denomination $100 bills from his robe pocket, slapping them brutally against the wet, soup-stained chest of the uniform. There is your damn tip, you pathetic beggar. Take the cash, turn around, and crawl back to whatever concrete slum you crawled out of. I have already submitted a manual 0-star review to your agency, along with a formal complaint of property damage. La Ley Sagrada Familia. Your driver account will be permanently blacklisted and deactivated before you even manage to reach the lobby floor. You are completely finished in this city, garbage boy. Now get out of my sight before I have my security team physically drag you out to the service stairs. Min stood completely frozen in the center of the ruined foyer, the hot, sticky soup slowly dripping down his front and pooling around his shoes. Yet his body did not shake, his head did not drop in shame, and not a single tear of humiliation formed in his eyes. Instead, a profound, terrifying stillness sailed over the young driver, his gaze locking on to Shark Hoang with the cold, immovable weight of an executioner. The heavy, suffocating silence inside the penthouse was broken only by the distant, muffled rumble of lightning shaking the city's concrete foundation. Min stood completely motionless in the center of the ruined, immaculate white foyer. A warm, sticky bird's nest soup was slowly dripping from his neck. soaking through the thin collar of his delivery shirt and staining the charcoal fabric underneath. Shards of shattered premium gold-rimmed porcelain lay scattered across his heavy, waterlogged leather boots. Shark Hoang stood just 2 feet away, breathing heavily from his sudden outburst of rage, his expensive silk robe rustling as he readjusted his gold cuffs. He watched the young delivery driver with narrowed, cuticombe, venomous eyes, expecting him to break down, beg, cry, or crawl on his hands and knees to beg for the $100 bills littering the floor. But Min did not drop his gaze. He slowly reached into his inner pocket and pulled out a pristine, Delahoyd, white linen handkerchief, an object whose fine quality was completely out of place for a regular manual laborer. With slow, terrifyingly methodical movements, Min began to wipe the warm liquid from his face and jawline. His breathing remained deep, steady, and entirely calm. His eyes, reflecting the sharp, sterile glow of the massive crystal chandelier above, transformed from a look of patient endurance into a cold, unbreakable sheet of ice. Shark Hoang felt a sudden, strange chill run down his spine as he watched the driver's total lack of fear. His massive ego immediately flared up to mask the sudden insecurity. What are you staring at? You pathetic animal. Are you trying to look brave in front of me? Do you honestly think that philosophical stare changes the fact that you are a nobody? You are a biological failure who carries food to the doorsteps of gods like me for a living. Min quietly folded the stained handkerchief, placing it back into his pocket with absolute grace, before speaking in a low, a la Sagrada Familia, resonant voice that echoed through the high sailing room. Mr. Hoang, money can easily build a tower that reaches into the clouds, but it clearly cannot elevate the rotting mind of the person who lives inside it. You look down on me because you truly believe your bank account makes you a god in this city. But let me ask you a very practical question. If the financial system falls apart tomorrow, what is your paper wealth worth if no one in this society is willing to serve you? Shark Hoang let out aloud, a hysterical sneer, stepping forward and poking his manicured finger directly against Min's chest. Are you trying to lecture me on economics, you philosophical peasant? I am a billionaire. I control thousands of invisible lives, just like yours, with a single text message to your agency. I don't need your respect, and I don't need your approval, because I can buy everything you love and destroy it for my personal amusement. Ming's lips parted into a cold, knowing smile that made Shark Hoang's finger instantly freeze in place. We shall see about that, Mr. Hoang. Sometimes, the higher an arrogant man climbs, the harder the pavement feels when he finally falls. Enjoy your wealth while you still can, because karma never loses an address. It always delivers on time. Shark Hoang mocked him loudly, turning his back to walk toward his massive glass executive desk. Get out of my home before I have my security team shatter your other leg. But Ming did not turn around to leave. Instead, he took a firm, the heavy step forward, walking directly past the broken porcelain and entering the grand, gold-rimmed living area of the penthouse. Ming's fingers slowly reached for the wet, cheap plastic zipper of his neon green delivery jacket. The single, slow, and completely deliberate movement, he pulled it down. The harsh sound of the plastic teeth unzipping ripped through the silent, golden room. He shrugged his shoulders, letting the heavy, soaked uniform of a low-tier delivery driver slip off his arms. The wet fabric hit the pristine marble floor with a heavy, wet thud. Lenei. Shark Hoang's jaw completely dropped as his breath instantly caught in his dry throat. He took two clumsy, frantic steps backward, his eyes violently darting up and down. Beneath the cheap, green disguise, Min was wearing an immaculate, neatly dry, custom-tailored, charcoal gray, Tom Ford, three-piece suit. The expensive Italian wool fit his lean, athletic frame with mathematical perfection. As Min adjusted his cuffs, the diophagia from the justo, the sharp golden light from the crystal chandelier caught the polished edge of a platinum Vacheron Constantin watch on his left wrist. The rare luxury watch gleamed with an unyielding, quiet power that filled the entire space. Ragto. Min reached deep into the inner breast pocket of his tailored suit jacket. He pulled out a sleek, custom matte black iPad, its pristine screen reflecting the cold blue lightning outside. Uzbara. He tapped the screen once with his thumbprint, instantly unlocking an encrypted security terminal linked to a private global satellite network. Shark Hoang's face turned an ugly, pale shade of ash as his hands began to shake inside his silk robe. His voice lost all of its previous boom, reducing into a high-pitched, pathetic stutter. What is the meaning of this? Who the hell are you? Why were you wearing that trash uniform in my home? Ming looked up from the screen, his dark, calculating eyes locking onto the billionaire with absolute authority. I am the man you have been desperately begging for a lifeline for the last 6 months, Mr. Hoang.